Overview. The flex pendant, occasionally called TPU or Teach Pendant Unit, is a handheld operator unit used to perform many of the tasks involved when operating a robot system, running programs, jogging the manipulator, modifying robot programs, etc. Note that a few specific functions, such as administer the user authority system (UAS), cannot be performed using the flex pendant, but only by using Robot Studio Online. Use Operating Manual Robot Studio Online for details in these cases. Complete computer and integral part of ERC5. The flex pendant consists of both hardware and software and is a complete computer in itself. It is an integral part of ERC5, connected to the controller by an integrated cable and connector. The hot plug button option, however, makes it possible to disconnect the flex pendant in automatic mode and continue running without it. See using the hot plug option on page 239 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant for details about this. Main parts. The flex pendant is designed for continuous operation in harsh industrial environment. Its touch screen is easy to clean and resistant to water, oil and accidental welding splashes. These are the main parts of the flex pendant. N0300000586. A connector. B touch screen. C emergency stop button. D enabling device. E joystick. Continues on next page. 2 Welcome to flex pendant. 2.2. What is a flex pendant? 3 Hack 16590-1 revision. J43. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Hard buttons. There are 8 dedicated hardware buttons on the flex pendant, 4 of which the function is assigned by the end user. N0300000587. 8 deprogrammable keys. 1-4. How to define their respective function is detailed in section Changing Programmable Keys on page 324 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant. E start button. Starts program execution. F step backward button. Executes one instruction backward as button is pressed. G step forward button. Executes one instruction forward as button is pressed. H stop button. Stops program execution. Continued. Continues on next page. 2 Welcome to flex pendant. 2.2. What is a flex pendant? 44 3 Hack 16590-1 revision. J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. How to hold the flex pendant. The flex pendant is typically operated while being held in the hand. A right-handed person uses his left hand to support the device while the other hand performs operations on the touch screen. A left-hander, however, can easily rotate the display through 180 degrees and use his right hand to support the device. See Adapting the flex pendant for left-handed users on page 319 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant for further information. N0400000913. Operated in 14 languages. As suggested by its name, the flex pendant is designed with flexibility and adaptation to end users' specific needs in mind. Currently, it can be operated in 14 different languages, including Asian character-based languages such as Chinese and Japanese. The individual flex pendant supports up to 3 languages, selected before the installation of the system to the robot controller. Switching from one of the installed languages to another is easy. See Changing Language on page 323 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant for information about how to do it. Continued. Continues on next page. 2 Welcome to flex pendant. 2.2. What is a flex pendant? 3 Hack 16590-1 revision. J45. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Touch screen elements. The illustration shows important elements of the flex pendant touch screen. N0300000588. A tab menu. B operator window. C status bar. D close button. E task bar. F quick set menu. Continued. Continues on next page. 2 Welcome to flex pendant. 2.2. What is a flex pendant? 46 3 Hack 16590-1 revision. J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. AB menu. From the AB menu the following items can be selected: HOT edit, inputs and outputs, jogging production window, program editor, program data backup and restore calibration, control panel, event log, flex pendant, explorer, system info, etc. This is further detailed in section the AB menu on page 77 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant. Operator window. The operator window displays messages from robot programs. This usually happens when the program needs some kind of operator response in order to continue. This is described in section Operator window on page 96 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant. Status bar. The status bar displays important information about system status, such as operating mode, motors on/off, program state and so on. This is described in section Status bar on page 97 in Operating Manual ERC5 with flex pendant. Close button. Tapping the close button closes the presently active view or application. Task bar. You can open several views from the AB menu. but only work with one at a time. The taskbar displays all open views and is used to switch between these. Quick Set Menu. The Quick Set menu provides settings for jogging and program execution. This is described in section, the Quick Set menu on page 98 in Operating Manual ERC5 with FlexPendant. Continued. Continues on next page. 2. Welcome to FlexPendant. 2.2. What is a FlexPendant? 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J47. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Handling and cleaning. Handle with care. Do not drop, throw, or give the FlexPendant strong shock. It may cause breakage or failure when not using the device. Hang it on the wall bracket provided for storage so that it cannot fall to the ground by accident, or that nobody can trip over the cable. Never use sharp objects, e.g. screwdriver or pen, for operating the touch screen. This could damage the touch screen. Instead try a stylus, normally used for a PDA. Never clean the device with solvents, scouring agent, or scrubbing sponges. For cleaning the device, use a soft cloth and a bit of water or mild cleaning agent. See Product Manual ERC5. Section Cleaning the FlexPendant. Continue to Welcome to FlexPendant. 2.3. What is an ERC5 controller? 48 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 2.3. What is an ERC5 controller? The ERC5 controller. The ERC5 controller contains all functions needed to move and control the robot. The standard ERC5 controller consists of a single cabinet. As an option, it can also be divided into two modules, the control module and the drive module. This is called a dual cabinet controller. The control module contains all the control electronics such as main computer, I/O boards, and flash memory. The drive module contains all the power electronics supplying the robot motors. An ERC5 drive module may contain 9 drive units and handle 6 internal axes, plus 2 or additional axes depending on the robot model. When running more than one robot with one controller multi-move option, an extra drive module must be added for each additional robot. However, a single control module is used. XX0500002046. Related information. Product Manual ERC5. Application Manual Multi-Move. A control module. Dual cabinet controller B drive module. Dual cabinet controller C single cabinet controller 2. Welcome to FlexPendant. 2.4. What is Robot Studio Online? 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J49. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 2.4. What is Robot Studio Online? Overview. Robot Studio Online is a PC software with which you work with robots. As a complement to working from the FlexPendant, Robot Studio Online is optimized for text-based programming, suitable for programs with lot of logic or complex structure, and tasks related to managing the robot's system. Robot Studio Online can be installed on an ordinary computer running Windows 2000 or later. This computer can then be connected to one or several controllers by an Ethernet network, or to one single controller by the controller's service port connection. Robot Studio Online functionality. The main entry to the functionality of Robot Studio Online is a Robot View Explorer. From this you select which robot to work with, in cases where several robots are installed, and what parts of the system you want to work with. Robot Studio Online contains the system builder for creating, installing and maintaining systems, a configuration editor for editing the system parameters of the running system, a program editor for online programming, an event log for monitoring and saving robot events, tools for backing up and restoring systems, an administration tool for the user authorization system, a file manager for transferring files between the PC and controllers, a task window for operating all kinds of tasks in the controller, other tools for viewing and handling controller and system properties. 2. Welcome to FlexPendant. 2.5. When to use the FlexPendant and Robot Studio Online. 53 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 2.5. When to use the FlexPendant and Robot Studio Online. Overview. For operating and managing the robot, you either use the FlexPendant or Robot Studio Online. The FlexPendant is optimized for handling robot motions and ordinary operation, and Robot Studio Online is optimized for configuration, programming and other tasks not related to the daily operation. Start, restart and shut down the controller. Run and control robot programs. Communicate with the controller. 2. Use. Start the controller. The power switch on the controller's front panel. Restart the controller. The FlexPendant, Robot Studio Online or the power switch on the controller's front panel. Shut down the controller. The power switch on the controller's front panel or the FlexPendant. Tap restart. Then an advanced. 2. Use. Jog a robot. The FlexPendant start or stop a robot program. The Flex Pendant or Robot Studio Online start and stop background tasks. Robot Studio Online. 2. Use. Acknowledge events. The Flex Pendant. View and save the controller's event logs. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Back up the controller's software to files on the PC or a server. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Back up the controller's software to files on the controller. The Flex Pendant. Transfer files between the controller and network drives. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Continues on next page. 2. Welcome to Flex Pendant. 2.5. When to use the Flex Pendant and Robot Studio Online. 3. Hack 16590-1 revision. J51. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Program a robot. Configure the robot's system parameters. Create, modify and install systems. Calibration. 2. Use. Create or edit robot programs in a flexible way. This is suitable for complex programs with a lot of logic, I/O signals or action instructions. Robot Studio Online to create the program's structure and most of the source code, and the Flex Pendant to store robot positions and make final adjustments to the program. When programming, Robot Studio Online provides the following advantages: a text editor optimized for rapid code, with auto text and tooltip information about instructions and parameters. Program check with program error marking. Close access to configuration and I/O editing. Create or edit a robot program in a supportive way. This is suitable for programs that mostly consist of move instructions. The Flex Pendant. When programming, the Flex Pendant provides the following advantages: instruction pick lists, program check and debug while writing, possibility to create robot positions while programming, add or edit robot positions. The Flex Pendant. Modify robot positions. The Flex Pendant. 2. Use. Edit the system parameters of the running system. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Save the robot's system parameters as configuration files. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Load system parameters from configuration files to the running system. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. Load calibration data. Robot Studio Online or the Flex Pendant. 2. Use. Create or modify a system. Robot Studio Online together with Robotware and a valid Robotware key. Install a system on a controller. Robot Studio Online install a system on a controller from a USB memory. The Flex Pendant. 2. Use. Calibrate base frame etc. The Flex Pendant. Calibrate tools, work objects etc. The Flex Pendant. Continued. Continues on next page. 2. Welcome to Flex Pendant. 2.5. When to use the Flex Pendant and Robot Studio Online. 52. 3. Hack 16590-1 revision. J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Related information. The table below specifies which manuals to read when performing the various tasks referred to. Recommended use. For details, see manual. Document number. Flex Pendant Operating Manual ERC5 with Flex Pendant. 3. Hack 16590-1. Robot Studio Online Operating Manual. Robot Studio Online. 3. Hack 18236-1. Continue. 2. Welcome to Flex Pendant. 2.6. Buttons and ports on the controller. 3. Hack 16590-1 revision. J53. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 2.6. Buttons and ports on the controller. Single cabinet controller buttons and ports. XX0600002782. A main switch. B emergency stop. C motors on. D mode switch. E safety chain LEDs option. F USB port option. G service port for PC option. H duty time counter option. J service outlet 115 230ths V. 200 watts option. K hot plug button option. L Flex Pendant connector. Continues on next page. 2. Welcome to Flex Pendant. 2.6. Buttons and ports on the controller. 54. 3. Hack 16590-1 revision. J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Dual cabinet controller buttons and ports. XX0600002783. Related information. Product manual ERC5. Operating manual troubleshooting. A main switch. Control module. B emergency stop. C motors on. D mode switch. E safety chain LEDs option. F USB port option. G service port for PC option. H hot plug button option. J Flex Pendant connector. K main switch. Drive module. Continued. 3. Get started. 3.1. About this chapter. 3. Hack 16590-1 revision. J55. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3. Get started. 3.1. About this chapter. Overview. This chapter describes how to connect the Flex Pendant to the controller and how to set up network connections. It also presents a number of often performed work tasks with the Flex Pendant, described as action scenarios. 3. Get started. 3.2.1. Connecting a flex pendant. 56 3 hack 16590-1 revision, J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.2 Connections. 3.2.1 Connecting a flex pendant. Location of flex pendant connector. The flex pendant connector is located as shown below, XX0600002782, on a dual cabinet controller. The flex pendant connector is located on the front of the control module. Connecting a flex pendant. L flex pendant connector A22, X1. Action info. 1. Locate the flex pendant socket connector on the controller. The controller must be in manual mode. If your system has the option hot plug, then you can also disconnect in auto mode. See section using the hot plug option on page 239. 2. Plug in the flex pendant cable connector. 3. Screw the connector lock ring firmly by turning it clockwise. 3. Get started. 3.2.2 Disconnecting a flex pendant. 3 hack 16590-1 revision, J57. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.2.2 Disconnecting a flex pendant. Disconnecting a flex pendant. This procedure details how to disconnect a flex pendant. Action. 1. Finish any ongoing activities that require the flex pendant to be connected. For instance, path adjustments, calibration, program changes. 2. Shut down the system. If the system is not shut down when disconnecting the flex pendant, it will go to the emergency stop state. 3. Unscrew the connector cable counterclockwise. 4. Store the flex pendant safely away from any robot system. 3. Get started. 3.2.3 Set up the network connection. 58 3 hack 16590-1 revision, J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.2.3 Set up the network connection. When do I need to set up the network connection? You need to set up the controller's network connection when the controller is connected to a network for the first time, or when the network addressing scheme changes. Preparations. If an IP address is to be obtained automatically, make sure there is a server running that supplies the network with IP addresses, a DHCP server. Otherwise you will not be able to access the controller via the controller network. It is still possible to access the controller via the service PC connection. Network connection dialog box. The illustration shows the network connection dialog box. N0400000902. Set up the network connection. Regardless of how you choose to set up the network connections, the first steps are common. Action info. 1. You may reach the boot application by performing an X start. How to perform an X start is detailed in section Restart and select another system X start on page 280. 2. In the boot application, tap Settings. The network connection dialog is displayed. 3. If you choose to use no IP address, then tap Use no IP address. Otherwise, proceed below. In some cases it can be useful to disconnect the controller from the network without disconnecting the network cable. Without IP address, the controller cannot be accessed from other equipment on the same network. 4. If you choose to obtain an IP address automatically, then tap Obtain an IP address automatically. Otherwise, proceed below. Continues on next page. 3. Get started. 3.2.3 Set up the network connection. 3 hack 16590-1 revision, J59. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 5. If you choose to use a fixed IP address, tap Use the following IP address. Enter the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. Note: make sure a valid address is used, so there are no conflicts in the network. A conflict may cause other controllers to malfunction. 6. Tap OK to save the new setting. 7. In the boot application, tap Restart Controller to restart the controller and use the new setting. Action info. Continued. 3. Get started. 3.3.1 About action scenarios. 63 hack 16590-1 revision, J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3 Action scenarios. 3.3.1 About action scenarios. Overview. This chapter presents brief procedures, detailing a number of typical actions a typical user may perform. It also includes references to detailed information about the same topics. The brief information given is intended to be used directly by experienced users, while the references may be more adequate for novices and for training purposes. Related information. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedures. Information about a specific menu is described in chapter Navigating and Handling Flex Pendant on page 75. A specific button on the flex pendant is described in What is a Flex Pendant? On page 42. A specific button is described in chapter What is an ERC5 controller? On page 48 for tasks performed using the controls on the controller cabinet. How to perform a specific task is detailed in the tasks chapters. e.g. programming and testing on page 137 or running in production on page 231. Related information can also be found in other manuals. Operating Manual Robot Studio Online Product Manual ERC5. Operating Manual Troubleshooting 3 Get Started. 3.3.2 System Startup. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J61. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.2 System Startup. Prerequisites before startup. This procedure details the main steps required to start the system when the power has been switched off. All information is based on the assumption that working system software has already been installed on the robot controller, as the case would be at first startup directly after delivery. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. System Startup. This procedure details all required steps to start the system for the first time. For everyday startup, Step 4 is normally the only required step. Action info. 1. Install the robot equipment. Mechanical installation and electrical connections between manipulator and controller is described in the product manual of the robot and controller respectively. 2. Make sure the safety circuits of the system are properly connected to the robot cell or have jumper connections installed if required. How to connect the safety circuits is detailed in the robot's product manual. 3. Connect the flex pendant to the controller. The flex pendant and its major parts and functions are detailed in section What is a flex pendant? On page 42. How to connect the flex pendant to the controller is detailed in section Connecting a flex pendant on page 56. 4. Switch the power on. Use the main switch on the controller. 5. If the controller or manipulator have been replaced with spare parts, make sure the calibration values, revolution counters and serial numbers are updated correctly. Normally, only the revolution counters require updating, which is to be performed as detailed in section Updating Revolution Counters on page 298, if required. Transfer the calibration data from the serial measurement board as detailed in Serial Measurement Board Memory on page 304 for systems without the absolute accuracy option, if required. Enter the calibration data as detailed in Loading Calibration Data using the flex pendant on page 300 for systems with the absolute accuracy option. 6. This step is only required if the robot system will be connected to a network. Perform an X start. The boot application is started. Detailed in section Restart and select another system X start on page 280. Continues on next page 3 Get Started. 3.3.2 System Startup. 62 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 7. This step is only required if the robot system will be connected to a network. Use the boot application to set the IP address of the controller cabinet. Set the network connections. Select the system. Restart the system. The system is restarted. How to use the boot application is detailed in section Using the boot application on page 276. At this point, a single system is available. 8. Install Robot Studio Online on a PC. Proceed as detailed in the operating manual. Robot Studio Online. Robot Studio Online is used to create a system to run on the controller, but at this point prior to the first startup, a system is already installed by the manufacturer. 9. Connect the controller to a PC through the service port or to the network if used. Proceed as detailed in Product Manual ERC5. Section Connecting a PC to the service port. Also see section Set up the network connection on page 58. 10. Start Robot Studio Online on the PC. Proceed as detailed in the operating manual. Robot Studio Online. 11. Restart the controller. 12. The robot system is now ready for operation. Action info. Continued. 3 Get Started. 3.3.3 Jogging. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J63. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.3 Jogging. Jogging. This procedure details the main steps required to jog the robot. The term jogging is described in section Introduction to Jogging on page 107. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. Action info. 1. It is possible to jog the robot under the following conditions. The system has been started as detailed in this manual. No programmed operation is running. The system is in manual mode. The enabling device is pressed and the system is in motors on state. The manual mode is described in section About the manual mode on page 246. Starting in the manual mode is detailed in section Startup in manual mode on page 249. How to switch to manual mode is detailed in section Switching from automatic to manual mode on page 254. 2. Many of the mechanical units connected to the controller may be jogged. How to determine which mechanical unit to jog is detailed in section Selecting Mechanical Unit on page 110. 3. The robot may be jogged in several ways, in different coordinate systems. First, determine in which way you want to jog. The difference between different types of jogging is detailed in section Introduction to Jogging on page 107. How to jog the robot axis by axis is detailed in section Jog axis by axis on page 116. The robot may be jogged in jog and base coordinates on page 118, jog and tool coordinates on page 122, jog and world coordinates on page 119, jog and work object coordinates on page 121. 4. Once a mechanical unit has been selected, its axes may be jogged in different ways. These ways may be selected using the quickset menu. 5. Define the working range for the robot/robots as well as for any other pieces of equipment working in the robot cell. The robot's working range is defined by system parameters. See section Configuring System Parameters on page 293 or Technical Reference Manual System Parameters. Continues on next page. 3. Get started. 3.3.3 Jogging. 64.3 Hack 16590-1 Revision. J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 6. Jog the manipulator using the joystick on the flex pendant. The flex pendant and its various parts and sections are described in section What is a flex pendant? On page 42. The joystick and how to map the directions of it is detailed in section Selecting Motion Mode on page 112. How to prevent causing manipulator movements in certain directions while jogging is detailed in section Locking the joystick in specific directions on page 124. There might be restrictions to how you can jog. See section Restrictions to Jogging on page 108. 7. In some cases, more than one manipulator may be jogged simultaneously. This requires the multi-move option to be installed. How to jog multiple manipulators is detailed in section Coordinated Jogging on page 109. Action Info. Continued. 3. Get started. 3.3.4 Using Rapid Programs. 3. Hack 16590-1 Revision. J65. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.4 Using Rapid Programs. Using the Rapid Program. This procedure describes the main steps required in creating, saving, editing and debugging any rapid program. Note that there is more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. The concept rapid program is described in section The Structure of a Rapid Application on page 138. Action Info. 1. Start by creating a rapid program. How to create a rapid program is detailed in section Handling of Programs on page 171. 2. Edit your program. Proceed as detailed in section Handling of Instructions on page 183. 3. To simplify programming and keep an overview of the program, you may want to divide the program into more than one module. The module concept is described in section The Structure of a Rapid Application on page 138. How to view, add, or delete a module is detailed in section Handling of Modules on page 174. 4. To further simplify programming, you may want to divide the module into more than one routine. The routine concept is described in section The Structure of a Rapid Application on page 138. How to add or delete a routine is detailed in section Handling of Routines on page 178. 5. When programming, you may want to work with tools, work objects, payloads. Also read the following sections: Creating a tool on page 148. Creating a work object on page 160. Creating a payload on page 167. 6. In order to deal with potential errors that may occur during program execution, you may want to create an error handler. Error handlers are described in the rapid manuals. 7. After completing the actual rapid program, it will require testing before being put into production. Proceed as detailed in section Testing on page 209. 8. After test running your rapid program, it may require altering. You may want to modify or tune programmed positions, the TCP positions, or paths. How to modify positions while the program is running is described in section Hot Edit Menu on page 77. How to modify positions in manual mode is described in section Modifying Positions in the Program, Editor or Production window on page 192. 9. Programs that are no longer required may be removed. See Deleting Programs from Memory on page 205. Also see Deleting Programs from Hard Disk on page 207. Continues on next page. 3. Get started. 3.3.4 Using Rapid Programs. 66.3 Hack 16590-1 Revision. J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. Running the program. This procedure specifies how to use an existing rapid program. Action Info. 1. Load an existing program. Described in section Starting Programs on page 231. 2. When starting program execution, you may choose between running the program once or running it continuously. Described in section Quickset Menu, Run Mode on page 212. 3. Once the program has been loaded, you may start program execution. described in section Starting Programs on page 231 and in Using Multitasking Programs on page 234. 4. After program execution is completed, the program may be stopped. Proceed as detailed in section Stopping Programs on page 233. Continued 3. Get started. 3.3.5. Working with Inputs and Outputs. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J67. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.5. Working with Inputs and Outputs. Working with Inputs and Outputs. This procedure details the main steps required to set outputs, read inputs and configure I/O units. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. Action info. 1. You may want to create a new I/O. I/O signals are created using system parameters. See section Configuring System Parameters on page 293. 2. Before using any input or output, the system must be configured to enable the I/O functions. Configuring the system is done when creating the system. How to do this is detailed in Operating Manual Robot Studio Online. 3. You may set a value to a specific digital output. Proceed as detailed in section Simulating and Changing Signal Values on page 258. 4. You may set a value to a specific analog output. Proceed as detailed in section Simulating and Changing Signal Values on page 258. 5. You may view the status of a specific digital input. Proceed as detailed in section Simulating and Changing Signal Values on page 258. 6. You may view the status of a specific analog input. Proceed as detailed in section Simulating and Changing Signal Values on page 258. 7. Safety Signals. Signal explanation is detailed in Safety I/O. Signals on page 261. 8. How to edit an I/O. Proceed as detailed in section Simulating and Changing Signal Values on page 258. 3. Get started. 3.3.6. Backup and restore. 68. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.6. Backup and restore. Backup and restore. The contents of a typical backup is specified in section What is saved on backup on page 287. How to perform the backup is detailed in section Backup the System on page 289. Introducing the previously saved memory contents from the backup into the robot controller is called performing a restore. How to perform the restore is detailed in section Restore the System on page 290. Information about starts is described in Restart Overview on page 275. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to above. 3. Get started. 3.3.7. Running in production. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J69. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.7. Running in production. Running in production. This instruction details the main steps useful when running the system in automatic mode production mode. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. Action info. 1. Start the system as detailed in section System Startup on page 61. 2. If the system is using as User Authorization System, the user must log into the system before starting operation. How to log in is described in section How to log on and log off on page 106. 3. Load a program. How to load a program is described in Handling of Programs on page 171. 4. Before starting system, choose mode to start in on the controller. How to choose mode is described in section Switching from Manual to Automatic Mode on page 252. 5. Start by pressing the Start button on the flex pendant. The flex pendant's hardware buttons are described in What is a flex pendant? On page 42. 6. The controller system communicates with the operator through messages displayed on the flex pendant screen. Messages can be either event messages or rapid instructions, e.g. TP write. Event messages describe an event occurring within the system, and is saved in an event log. The basic concepts are described in section Accessing the Event Log on page 265. Rapid instructions TPRED-FK and TP-WRITE are described in Technical Reference Manual Rapid Instructions, Functions and Data Types. 7. In manual mode, the Modify Position function allows the operator to make adjustments to the robot positions in a rapid program. The HOT-EDIT function allows the operator to make adjustments to programmed positions in both automatic and manual mode. How to modify position is described in sections Modifying Positions in the Program, Editor or Production window on page 192 and HOT-EDIT menu on page 77. 8. In a production process, you may want to stop the robot. How to stop production is described in section Stopping Programs on page 233. 9. In the production window you can supervise the ongoing process. The production window is described in section Production Window on page 83:10. When ending operation, the user should log off. How to log in is described in section How to log on and log off on page 106. 3. Get started. 3.3.8. Granting access for Robot Studio Online. 73 Hack 16590-1 Revision J. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.8. Granting access for Robot Studio Online. About write access on the controller. The controller only accepts one user with write access at a time. Users in Robot Studio Online can request write access to the system. If the system is running in manual mode, the request is accepted or rejected on the flex pendant. Granting access for Robot Studio Online. This procedure describes how to grant access for Robot Studio Online. Action 1. When a user in Robot Studio Online requests access, a message is displayed on the flex pendant. Decide whether to grant or reject access. If you want to grant access, then tap Grant. The user holds write access until he disconnects or until you reject the access. If you want to deny access, then tap Reject. 2. If you have granted access and want to revoke the access, tap Reject. 3. Get started. 3.3.9. Upgrading. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J71. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.9. Upgrading. Upgrading. This procedure details the main steps required to correctly upgrade the system. By upgrading we mean changing hardware, such as replacing circuit board with newer versions, as well as loading software with later releases. Note that there may be more information available than the one referred to in the procedure. Type of upgrade info when replacing circuit boards such as buses, I/O boards, etc. with newer versions. The system will automatically reflash the unit XX0100000003 during reflashing. The system may restart several times, and it is vital not to shut down the system, or in any other way interrupt the automatic process. What happens during reflashing is detailed in section Reflashing Firmware and Flex Pendant on page 285. When upgrading the robot or controller mechanically, fitting instructions are normally delivered with the kit. If no such instruction are provided, useful information may be found in the repair section of the product manual of the equipment in question. When upgrading the system software, the system must be changed in order to reflect the additions. A new license key may be required. How to modify an existing system is detailed in section How to modify a system in the operating manual Robot Studio Online. How to create a new system is detailed in section Creating a new system in the operating manual Robot Studio Online. 3. Get started. 3.3.10. Installing software options. 72 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.10. Installing software options. Installing software options. The main steps required to correctly install a generic software option or option package is described in Operating Manual Robot Studio Online. 3. Get started. 3.3.11. Shutting down. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J73. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 3.3.11. Shutting down. Shutting down. This procedure describes how to shut down the system and turn off power. Action info. 1. Stop all running programs. 2. Shut down the system using the main power switch on/off switch or shut down the system using the flex pendant. Tap App menu Restart Advanced Shutdown. When using the flex pendant, wait for 30 seconds after shutting down the system. It is then safe to turn off the main power switch. The flex pendant will display connecting to controller. This can safely be ignored. 3. If you want to protect the flex pendant you can unplug it and store it elsewhere when the system has shut down. How to disconnect the flex pendant from the controller is detailed in section Disconnecting a Flex Pendant on page 57. 3. Get started. 3.3.11. Shutting down. 74 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 4. Navigating and handling flex pendant. 4.1. About this chapter. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision J75. Copyright sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 4. Navigating and handling flex pendant. 4.1. About this chapter. Overview. This chapter will help you to work efficiently with the flex pendant. The important elements for navigation illustrated in touch screen elements on page 45 will now be further detailed. All views of the app menu, the main element for navigation, are described in overview with references to further details on how to use their functions. Note that this manual only covers views of a basic robotware system. Process applications such as arc welding, dispense, or plastics are started from the app menu but not described in this manual, as all software options are detailed in their respective application manual. In addition, this chapter provides information about basic procedures, such as how to use the soft keyboard for entering text or figures, how to scroll and zoom the graphical touch screen, and how to use the filtering function. How to log on and log off is also covered. For navigating and handling Flex Pendant 4.2, Overview, personalizing the Flex Pendant. 76.3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB, all rights reserved. 4.2, Overview, personalizing the Flex Pendant. Personalizing. The Flex Pendant can be personalized in a number of ways. How to do this is described in the following sections. How to is described in section. Change the language used in windows and dialogues. Changing language on page 323. Change the display's brightness and contrast. Changing brightness and contrast on page 318. Rotate the Flex Pendant for left/right handheld use. Procedure on page 319. Configure views for program start. Defining a view to be shown at operating mode change on page 311. Recalibrate the touch screen. Calibrating the touch screen on page 326. Configure programmable keys. Changing programmable keys on page 324. Configure most common I/O list. Configuring most common I/O on page 322. Change background image. Changing the background image on page 312. Change the date and time. Changing date and time on page 321. For navigating and handling Flex Pendant. 4.3.1. Hot Edit Menu. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J77. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB, all rights reserved. 4.3 The App Menu. 4.3.1. Hot Edit Menu. Hot Edit. Hot Edit is used to tune programmed positions. This can be done in all operating modes and even while the program is running. Both coordinates and orientation can be tuned. Hot Edit can only be used for named positions of the type Rob Target. See limitations below. The functions available in Hot Edit may be restricted by the user authorization system. As illustration of the Hot Edit view, N0500001542. Functions available in Hot Edit. Program targets lists all named positions in a tree view. Select one or several positions to be tuned by tapping the arrow. Notice that if a position is used at several places in your program, any change made to the offset will take effect everywhere it is used. Selected targets lists all selected positions and their current offset. To remove a position from the selection, you tap it and then tap the trash. File saves and loads selections of positions to be tuned. If your system uses as, this may be the only way to select positions for Hot Edit. Continues on next page. For navigating and handling Flex Pendant 4.3.1. Hot Edit Menu. 783 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB, all rights reserved. Caution. Hot Edit offers advanced functionality, which has to be handled carefully. Be aware that new offset values will be used immediately by a running program once the Apply button has been pressed. Before you start using the Hot Edit functionality, it is strongly recommended to read Tuning Positions with Hot Edit on page 194, where Hot Edit limitations and procedures as well as the baseline concept is detailed. Related information. See section Modifying and Tuning Positions on page 191 for a general overview on how to modify programmed positions. For modifying positions by jogging the robot to the new position, see section Modifying Positions in the Program, Editor or Production window on page 192. For detailed information about Hot Edit, see Tuning Positions with Hot Edit on page 194. Technical Reference Manual Rapid Instructions, Functions and Data Types. Technical Reference Manual System Parameters. Section Topic Controller Type Mode Pose Settings. Baseline used to apply or reject new offset values to the baseline, which holds the position values currently seen as the original ones. When you are satisfied with your Hot Edit session and want to save the new offset values as the original position values, you apply these to the baseline. The old baseline values for these positions are now gone, and cannot be restored. Tune Targets displays settings for tuning, coordinate system, tuning mode, and tuning increment. Make your choices and then use the plus and minus icons to specify tuning of selected targets. Tap Apply to make the settings made in the Tune Targets view take effect. Note that this does not change the baseline values of the positions. Continued for navigating and handling Flex Pendant. 4.3.2. Flex Pendant Explorer. 3 Hack 16590-1 Revision, J79. Copyright Sign Copyright 2004 to 2007 AB, all rights reserved. 4.3.2 Flex Pendant Explorer. About Flex Pendant Explorer. The Flex Pendant Explorer is a file manager, similar to Windows Explorer, with which you can view the file system on the controller. You can also rename, delete, or move files or folders. Illustration Flex Pendant Explorer. The illustration details the Flex Pendant Explorer, N0400001130. Parts Flex Pendant Explorer. The table below describes the parts in the illustration above. Description function. A simple view tap to hide type in the file window. B detailed view tap to show type in the file window. C path displays the directory path. D menu tap to display menu with functions for file handling. E new folder tap to create new folder in present folder. F up one level tap to change to parent folder. G refresh tap to refresh the files and folders. For navigating and handling Flex Pendant 4.3.3 Inputs and outputs. I/O 83 hack 16590-1 revision J. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 4.3.3 Inputs and outputs. I/O Inputs and outputs. Inputs and outputs. I/O are signals used in the robot system. Signals are configured with system parameters. See section configuring system parameters on page 293. The inputs and outputs view. This illustration details the inputs and outputs view. N0400000770. What is a signal? An I/O signal is the logical software representation of an I/O signal located on a field bus unit that is connected to a field bus within the controller. By specifying a signal, a logical representation of the real I/O signal is created. The signal configuration defines the specific system parameters for the signal that will control the behavior of the signal. For navigating and handling Flex Pendant. 4.3.4 Jogging. 3 hack 16590-1 revision J81. Copyright sign copyright 2004 to 2007 AB. All rights reserved. 4.3.4 Jogging. Overview. The jogging functions are found in the jogging window. The most commonly used are also available under the Quickset menu. Jogging menu. The illustration shows the functions available under the jogging menu. N0400000654. Property/button function mechanical unit. Select active mechanical unit. Described in section selecting. Mechanical unit on page 110. Absolute accuracy. Absolute